You're going to get so much value out of this episode on specific strategies you can use to get momentum on the speaking circuit with our guest, Cindy Rowe, on this episode of the Speaking Your Brand podcast. More and more women are making an impact by starting businesses, running for office, and speaking up for what matters. With my background as a TV political analyst, entrepreneur, and speaker, I interview and coach purpose-driven women to shape their brands, grow their companies, and become recognized as influencers in their field. This is Speaking Your Brand, your place to learn how to persuasively communicate your message to your audience.
If you are trying to build your visibility as a speaker, maybe you've landed a first speaking gig, or maybe you've done a couple of speaking engagements already, but you might be wondering how speakers can build a consistent stream of speaking engagements and build momentum on the speaking circuit. So you might have seen speakers like the guest we have today speaking all over the place, but how do they do that? How do they build this consistent momentum with their speaking engagements so they can keep getting more speaking gigs? If you're new to Speaking Your Brand, welcome. If you're returning to us, welcome back. I'm Diane Diaz, and I'm lead speaking coach with Speaking Your Brand. And today we are going to talk about all those things and more, and the strategies that you can use, just like our guests has used, to build momentum on the speaking circuit for yourself so that you can get out there and start doing more speaking engagements. Now, before I introduce Cindy, I just want to let you know that Cindy did go through our Thought Leader Academy back in June of 2022. So if you're interested in working on your signature talk, building your momentum, getting more speaking gigs, enrollment is open for the Thought Leader Academy. You can visit speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that is speakingyourbrand.com/academy. So let's get on to our guest, Cindy Rowe. Cindy is a dynamic professional speaker, trainer, and a passionate entrepreneur. Having built 2 successful companies from the ground up, she's an influential thought leader in her community who works tirelessly to change the narrative around kindness. And as I mentioned, Cindy is a graduate of the Thought Leader Academy almost exactly 2 years ago, by the way. I checked the date on that. And Cindy was a guest on the Speaking Your Brand podcast already, also back in 2022. And it's just so you know, episode 284, Connecting Your Ideas into One Message. So definitely go back and listen to that. It is so wonderful to have you back on the podcast, Cindy.
Oh, thank you so much, Diane. It's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
Yeah, me too. And I'm excited to have you talk about all the strategies that you've used, because it's a nice comparison to when you were on the podcast last and all the hard work that you've done to get yourself creating this momentum. And by the way, everybody should go check out Cindy's LinkedIn profile, because that is where you will see how on fire she is with speaking engagements. Yeah. So maybe we can start at the beginning. Maybe you can just tell our audience a little bit more. You know, I said that you're sort of passionate around kindness, but tell our audience a little bit more about the work that you do and kind of like your main message.
Absolutely. So I am a self-proclaimed kindness ambassador, and I tell my story during my presentations on how I became that. But, I was in a dark place a long time ago, and somebody suggested that I do a random act of kindness, and it literally changed my life. So I, through the Thought Leader Academy, figured out my message on how I can help inspire and motivate others through kindness, and getting in front of organizations, whether it's corporate or nonprofits. Anybody can benefit from hearing my message on kindness. And I really like to change their idea wrapped around kindness, because we think of it as such a basic thing that we all should do. And I've even had attendees come up and say that they weren't really excited about my message at the beginning, and they left changed. And for me, that is a huge testimony on the power that kindness can have if you are truly open to it. So I love speaking with leadership. We need more kindness in the workplace. And that's really what I'm passionate about right now, is getting in front of as many people in the workplace to spread the message of kindness and how it actually belongs in our workplaces.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that. And I remember when you and I worked together way back when on your VIP day, that is one of the things that we talked about. So we'll get to that in a minute. But what I want to know is, thinking back to when you were in the Thought Leader Academy back in 2022, before you joined, what was your experience with speaking? Were you already speaking? How frequently were you speaking? What were the topics of your speaking back then?
Yeah, so I actually run a marketing company, and I was doing speaking in my local community on social media and just different marketing tips and strategies that small business owners could utilize. And I love doing that. I love giving back. And I was actually I hosted my own conference. And from that, I started doing like lunch and learns locally. And then it was the chamber, my local chamber invited me to speak at the women's luncheon. And they wanted me to share my entrepreneurial story. And that's when I did that is really where I got the bug. I'm like, I have to do this. And I felt like I wasn't so passionate about sharing social media tips. That didn't fire me up. And, but talking about my story, that fired me up, and I just got really excited. And that's, when I stumbled across the Thought Leader Academy and dove into that, and I'm grateful. I will not ever look back on that decision. So it really helped me propel forward.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm glad that you were able to share your story with the audience at the chamber, because that is something that we also talk a lot about, is using your story to inspire other people, to connect with the audience. And I'm sure, well, let me ask you this question. What was the reaction from the audience? Like, what feedback did you get when you shared your story? How did they react to that?
I had people come up afterwards and they just really were grateful that I was so open and vulnerable, and they were inspired. I actually got a client from it too, which was kind of funny, but because she related to me on a different level and she wanted to work with me. So that was really exciting. Yeah. And then I honestly was on cloud nine for several days. And I remember going home and telling my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, I need to do this. I need to do this more. This was amazing. And I just, seeing their faces, I love humor. And I our lives are funny, and, just kind of make light of things, but also having that serious aspect of the struggles and, kind of opening up your heart a little bit. You see the reaction of people, and it just, I don't know, it gives you the warm fuzzies, actually.
Yeah.
I love it. So
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. You do get the warm fuzzies. And I think it's through vulnerability, right, that we can connect with other humans who are sitting in the audience. And it's no surprise to me that somebody then wanted to work with you, because the more that we know about someone, the more we trust them, right? And then we trust them not only to listen to what they're saying, but we also trust to work with them. So it's no surprise to me that somebody wanted to work with you from that. And it seems like, and we'll get to this in a moment as well, that message where you started sharing your own personal story also then propelled you into sort of this greater momentum with your speaking. So, we worked together again way back in 2022. And then so we worked on your signature talk around kindness. So what was the goal that you had with that specific talk? Was it to generate leads? Was it to build brand awareness? What was your goal, your specific goal in relation to creating that talk?
I think brand awareness, just getting me known as a speaker, and kind of separating myself from my marketing company. That was really important to me. I honestly haven't used my talks to generate leads per se. That's kind of my next step. Is I want to create a training program that I can. So after they hear me speak about kindness, then they're like, well, we have to have her come in and work with our, emerging leaders or our top leaders or whatever sales team. I want to create that next product. So, I can help more people and just zone in on certain things, because during the conversation in my presentation, we don't deep dive, it's not that serious, I guess. And so I want to be able to have that opportunity to really go deeper. So that's next level for me.
Yeah, that's great. No, I like that, because I think you've been setting the foundation for that. You are known as the kindness speaker, right? You speak on kindness, you're building that brand, you're building awareness for yourself. And then, as you said, and as we often tell our clients, you can then turn that into paid offerings, where you then get paid to come do a workshop with them, where you do get to dive deeper into those topics. Yeah. But this talk that you're giving and all these talks around kindness are setting you up for that. So I love that. Now, I know that on LinkedIn, when you're sharing content, almost all of your content is connected in some way, shape, or form to kindness. So, the message is out there that you're the kindness person. You're doing some speaking engagements. You created that signature talk. I'm curious, how do most of your speaking engagements come to you? Because, by the way, for our listeners, if you do go to Cindy's LinkedIn, what you're going to see, hopefully, is a post that I saw not too long ago, where you had posted what your summer talk schedule was. You had 3 talks in June, 1 in July, and 2 in August, which is incredible. But how do you get these speaking engagements? Tell us some of the ways that and strategies that you use to get those speaking engagements.
So I do Google searches. I have the Google alerts come in. And actually, I pay attention on LinkedIn. I follow a lot of speakers. And if they're speaking somewhere, I usually look it up. And if it aligns with, the audience I want to get in front of, I'll add it to my little spreadsheet to follow up on. But Google alerts have been really great lead source for me. What's been really cool is where I've spoken at before, like last year was an amazing year for me, where I really hit it hard. And I think somebody had asked me, I think I had 18 speaking engagements last year. My goal was 12. So I did a great job with exceeding that. But I'm now getting calls from people that saw me speak, and they want me to come speak at an event or their conference or at their workplace. So now I'm a referable speaker, which is so incredible. and you have a little bit more of a opportunity there, with those people that have seen you speak and want you to come speak for them again. So that's been really exciting. That's been the change this year, is I have more people coming to me than me, filling out applications or sending cold emails. But I work really hard on leads. I mean, I still, every week I am sending out emails or filling out applications in hopes that I get booked.
Thank you, Cindy, for sharing all of that, because I think these are things that, tips that we often give out, but I think it really shows those things in action and the results that you can have when you do those things. So as you said, every week, and so for the listener, just to reiterate, because these are things I think are important when you're, trying to build that momentum. So, most of us, we've done random speaking gig here and there, but to build actual momentum and keep those speaking gigs coming. So Cindy said every week she's working the leads, looking for places to speak, seeing. Also, I think another important thing that we often forget, I forget it sometimes too, follow other speakers, because as you mentioned, they are speaking in places. So if it aligns with what you speak about, no reason you can't also pitch yourself to speak there. So working on those leads every week, following other speakers to see where they're speaking, Google Alerts. I love that you have that set up. Now, do you set those up? How like what terminology do you use? Do you use call for speakers? Do you use women's conferences? What are you searching on in those Google Alerts?
Yeah, so women speakers needed. Call for speakers, keynote speaker. I have, because I love HR, and that's my sweet spot right now. I get booked to speak at a lot of HR conferences. I put in HR conferences, women conferences, pretty much, and leadership conferences. I think ERG conferences, pretty much every kind of conference I've spoken at in the past, I have a Google alert for, and search. And I have so I'm based out of Illinois. I'm right on the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. So I do a call for speakers for Illinois, call for speakers for Wisconsin, and then just a general call for speakers. But I probably have close to 20 Google alerts that I have come to I have a special Google folder in my Gmail that it goes right there. So it doesn't clog up my email box. And once a week, I go and look at that and kind of weed through those. I also do Google alerts for like kindness articles that I may not have, seen on my scrolling. That really helps me stay in touch too with my topic. And that's been really helpful. So then I can reference any kind of new research that's out there or idea that I haven't thought of or seen before. So that's been helpful for me for content too.
Oh my gosh, Cindy, brilliant. A couple of things I had never thought of. Number one, to start having Google alerts for articles related to your topic so you can stay on top of that topic. Mind blown for me. Like that's brilliant. And also the idea to have the Google alerts go to a folder in your Gmail so that it doesn't clog up your email. Genius, because of course it does clog up your email if you just let it come to the general folder there, but also a good way to collect them in one place so that you always know where they live and you can just go right back to it.
Yes.
So I love that. And I also love that you have many Google alerts set up on different search terms. So for anybody listening to this, if you're not clear on how to set up a Google alert, it's very simple. Just literally go Google how to set up a Google alert. It is very easy. Trust me. But you can set them up on multiple search terms. And I think that's important because, you have to kind of think outside the box sometimes for where you can speak that fits with your topic. So as Cindy mentioned, she's speaking to HR conferences a lot or meetings or things related to HR, but also could be, a women's event or a corporate event of some type. So think outside the box of those, search terms that you can use for where you can speak and make Google alerts around those. Mm-hmm. And then work those leads every week. And then, so Cindy, I'm wondering too, with the speakers that you follow, do you ever connect with any of them and either ask for a recommendation to speak somewhere, or is there any special way that you leverage that?
I have just through, some of the speaker sisters, I guess, through Thought Leader Academy that we met. But some of the ones that I've not been introduced personally, I have not reached out to them. I do interact with them on LinkedIn, their posts and whatnot, but I've never private messaged them. I'm not to that point yet. And that might be a good idea to do. I start building a relationship that way. When I'm at a conference and I have the opportunity to meet other speakers, I always try to get them on LinkedIn and follow up with a quick note and just kind of stay connected that way. And that's been helpful. And actually one speaker sat in my session and I sat in on her session and we both left each other a recommendation on LinkedIn. So that was really cool.
Yes, I love that. Wow, this is a really great example for everyone listening on how you have to work multiple angles, right? So it's not just like what is the thing I can do to get speaking engagements? There isn't one thing, right? There are lots of things. And it does take, in order to create momentum and consistency with it, it takes working all those multiple angles because, so as Cindy just demonstrated, she's getting speaking engagements, finding them in Google alerts, but also through connecting and following other speakers, and also through pitching herself, of course, and working leads every week, and then reaching back out to places she's already spoken at. So there's multiple ways that the speaking engagements are coming, but you kind of have to work all those angles. And Cindy, I think for you too, you've built the awareness of who you are and what you speak on. And so, as you mentioned, now people are reaching out to you. So what, for your speaking engagements that you've done, as of late or over the last year, what percentage would you say have come from people who reached out to you versus you pitching yourself?
Well, so it would be this year. I have a handful, and then I've actually booked into 2025 to speaking engagements from people that have seen me speak already this year. So that was pretty exciting. So I've only got 2 on the books for 2025, and those are both referrals and both paid. It's pretty exciting. So I believe that number will continue to grow on where I'm getting more booked business through my speaking engagements versus me filling out the applications and doing the nitty-gritty work. But I'll continue doing the nitty-gritty work because it's been very fulfilling and successful for me to do that. And until I don't have any space on my calendar, I'm not going to stop.
Well, I love hearing that you have gigs booked already into 2025 and that's so to that point, now is the time to start working on getting those, because depending on where you want to speak, most events, organizations, conferences, they are planning far out in advance. So if you're listening to this and you're looking to speak in 2025, start working on that now. And you can start with some of the tips that Cindy has shared on the ways. So go ahead and set up Google alerts, and that can help you start finding those opportunities for speaking. But I love that you've built this brand of being the speaker that speaks about kindness, and it is clearly working for you to build that momentum. So do you mostly speak locally? Do you travel a lot? How does that look?
I would say I do mostly travel. This summer is local, which I did by design, honestly. But come August, I am traveling out and will be traveling through the end of November. I don't know if I even have a local. I think I have one local event in the fall, but everything else is travel. So.
And are the travel ones, are those all paid gigs?
I would say 50-50. Okay. 50-50. If they're not paying me to speak, they're helping cover travel. If they're not doing either of those, I've negotiated other things like video and photos and a testimonial and a referral. So
I love it. Yes, no, I love it. I think we always tell our clients that if you do want to speak somewhere and they don't have a budget or they say they don't pay, then there are other things that you can negotiate as quote unquote payment, which could be all the things you mentioned, right? So you have to, again, think outside the box on that if you want to if you want to take the speaking engagement, but also I think those things can still work into your visibility and building the momentum. And like you said, maybe getting a referral. So, and I love the idea that you shared to sit in on another speaker's session and then do a LinkedIn recommendation for it, because that's so powerful. And you've got, third-party credibility from someone who actually saw you speak, sharing that with other people. Plus, you never know, that speaker might not be able to speak somewhere and then might refer you.
Right, exactly. And it's really neat. I really enjoy watching other speakers, and not necessarily on their, this sounds sad, or I don't even know, but not necessarily what they're speaking on, but like how they're doing it, like their slides. I really pay attention to what they're doing versus their topic. But just so I can learn, you get stuck in your own bubble. And it's kind of refreshing to see what other people are doing. And if I'm at a conference, I always try to get to the keynote speaker too, because that's the position I want. And I want to see what they're doing that I am not, or, that I should be doing to get up on that big stage. So.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think we need to see the people doing the thing that we aspire to do. And then it either gives us ideas, or it gives us motivation, or it, like you said, it just gives us, good insight for how we might present something, or, sometimes frankly, even what not to do. Right. So,
Yes.
it's anything that you're doing, whatever it is, the more it's almost like practice or research for you as a speaker, right? So part of your research as a speaker and practicing being a speaker is to see other speakers speak. And then you can learn so much from that. I've seen some speakers who the way they manage the stage and their delivery and their presence is just awe-inspiring. And I'm like, I want that. And so then you can keep that in your mind for when you speak, and you say, oh, I can pull from that I learned from this speaker.
Yeah. And it's part of, if you're there, it's a great opportunity just to meet somebody doing what you love to do too, and building that network. Like even if it just ends up being a LinkedIn connection down the road, you never know where your paths might cross or can cross again. And I just love meeting new people anyway. So
I'm wondering, because I was just thinking as you were sharing that about watching other speakers, have you ever gone to an event or conference or something and then connected with the organizers to sort of say, hey, I love this conference and I'd love to be a speaker? And then my follow-up question to that would be, what is the strangest way that you've gotten a speaking engagement, or the most interesting way that you've gotten a speaking gig?
So I don't know if I've ever been to a conference as just an attendee since I started professional speaking.
Nice.
I can't think of one. So, but I do like to find the person that booked me. If they're on site, every time I go, I always ask for them and just want to meet them face to face, because most of the time we haven't, or it's just been a quick Zoom call or maybe a phone call. So I really like to say hello and thank them again. And your second question, the strangest way,
or most interesting, or
I have a speaker friend locally, and he was unable to do a gig, and we kind of speak about the same thing. He speaks about connection, and so he said, hey, you should probably talk to my friend Cindy. And we had a conversation, and I was booked as the closing keynote thanks to him, but he couldn't do it. So that was fun.
Why. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to connect with other people that are doing the thing you want to do, because you never know when those opportunities might come up. And certainly, there have been times that I couldn't take a speaking engagement for one reason or another, or it just wasn't a good fit for me or whatever. And I will always refer another speaker that I know. So I'm sure everybody else feels the same way too. So it's great to know other speakers. So I would say definitely connect with other speakers on LinkedIn, and you can, as good as you can connect with them, in that platform, but you can also, once you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, you can invite them to a virtual coffee just to get to know them better. And then now you've established a relationship. So if they can't do a speaking gig, they might mention your name, or they might just refer you for something. Or sometimes speakers, they themselves are also setting up events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hosted my own event this past fall, so in September. And I actually had that gentleman that referred me. He was one of my speakers, and kind of as a thank you, because I didn't pay him to speak, but he got in front of a different audience and a new audience. And so, but yeah.
That's fantastic. And so now in all the speaking that you're doing, because you're just pretty much, I see you out speaking all the time. You're just always sharing it on LinkedIn. That's another thing. Make sure you're sharing your content on LinkedIn from speaking engagements so that people know you're a speaker. That's very important. But what would you say, like within the speaking that you do, what percentage would you say, or is it most for you said you're not really doing much from lead generation standpoint, but are you doing workshops? Are you doing, and I know you said you're looking to do keynotes, but what are they mostly, the types of talks that you're giving? Like what format? Lunch and learns, lead gens, whatever.
I've been booked mostly for like breakout sessions at conferences. I've done, actually just yesterday, I was hired for a local organization to do a presentation, more of a recognition and appreciation for case managers. Then that was a lot of fun. It was 2 hours that they had me speak and but we did more activities, and it was a lot of fun. It was all on kindness and a lot of self-kindness. They really wanted to focus on self-kindness. And, but so that's what I've been doing. I've done several keynotes, and a couple workshops, but not, I wouldn't say more than the 2 hour mark. But I'm hoping that, down the road, that's where I will be spending more time too, where I can really deep dive and help organizations take the kindness thing a little bit further.
I love that. And I noticed so for example, that post you made on LinkedIn about the number of talks you had in June, July, and August, the titles were different, but they were all connected in some way to kindness.
And it's basically the same presentation. So when I pitch or fill out an application or have that conversation with the event organizer, we know the title sells it, right? And the program and whatnot. So trying to make the title work for the conference theme is really important, and making sure that, you're kind of being open to having that flexibility of changing your title to fit the need of the event. But the main part of my presentation is the same. And I do tailor it to the group I'm speaking with. So for instance, yesterday it was case managers. So I did some research on what kind of issues they're having. I already knew this, but just to make sure, they're dealing with burnt out, high levels of stress, overworked, lack of staffing. And so I weave that throughout my presentation on how kindness can actually battle some of those things. And I think that's really beneficial. People really love when you've taken the time to research their industry and drop a few of the little nuggets in there and weave it through, like how kindness can actually make a difference with their areas of levels or whatever of stress that they're having in that industry. So
I love that because it really demonstrates that idea of having a signature talk that you then tailor to some degree, but you don't wholesale change it. You just tailor it to that audience, tailor the title to be appealing so people will want to come to it. So I love that idea. And I love that and this is something that we also say to almost all of our clients, because this comes up, well, I want to be doing these speaking engagements regularly and I want to get paid to speak. And so you can do that. But if you look at Cindy's trajectory here, you were in the Thought Leader Academy in 2022. It's now 2024. It's been almost exactly 2 years. And so it is about a 2-year trajectory to get to that momentum and start getting regular paid speaking engagements. So it kind of holds true in this example is it takes time to build that momentum, but you've done it, just to recap for everyone, by connecting with other speakers, by setting up Google alerts and staying abreast of any event that might come up where they're looking for speakers, by pitching yourself, filling out applications, applying to conferences regularly, weekly, all the time, to make sure that you're doing the effort. And then while you're doing the speaking engagements, you're building momentum where people are then coming to you. So you're leveraging the speaking engagements you're already doing to get more speaking engagements. So to get that momentum, it kind of takes all of those things.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And consistency is key. I still run my marketing business, so I have to carve out time. This is really important to me. I would love to be a full-time speaker, but Right now, the marketing company pays my bills, and, hopefully I'm hoping in 2, maybe 3 years that it will be the other way around, where the speaking is my main thing and I can kind of walk away more from my marketing company. And I'm realistic, right? Taking one day a week to really focus on my speaking career, I know it's going to take time. If I had the opportunity to do 2 to 3 days a week, I mean, I know I would propel forward much faster, but it's just not reality. And I am thrilled with the results of what the effort that I put in. And it's not easy, and I get a lot of rejections, but with those rejections, then I get, a yes, we can't wait to have you. And then within those is when people reach out and say, I heard you speak and I need you to speak at my event. We're having, I'm on the chair, or the committee, and those are all exciting, but it does take time.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because it does take time. And also there are going to be rejections, and that's okay. But the more, who is it that said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? I don't know who said that, but some basketball player, I believe. But it's true. I mean, you are going to get rejections, but the more you keep at it, you will start to get the yeses. And then that's all you need is like the one yes, just keep you going till the next yes. Right. And so it's that, like you said, the consistency in the work that you're doing towards it. And so, and I think it seems like most of us that are speakers are also doing, that's not our sole thing, right? So you do have to carve out time, but you've found a nice, it's not a formula, but like a strategy, if you will, for how to start to build your presence, get known, and then build the momentum. And so now here we are 2 years later from Thought Leader Academy, and you are all over the place. So tell us, Cindy, what is next for you with speaking? Do you have any really cool speaking engagements coming up, or anything that you're super excited about with regard to speaking, or maybe some new speaking goals?
Yeah, so there's several things. I'm coming down to Orlando in August. That's my first trip this fall, or whatever, late summer. I had interviewed for the keynote and I didn't get it. But they gave me a breakout session. They just reached out to me maybe 2 weeks ago and asked if I would do another session, because they're receiving responses that on the schedule that they won't be able to attend both, or, that it must be aligned with two different great presentations. So they asked me to speak a second time. So I'm speaking both Monday and Tuesday, and I've never had that before. And I've negotiated my hotel and some extra cash to do that. And for me, that was an eye opener that, I'm curious why I didn't get the keynote, and maybe next time for the next conference, I'll be considered if my session is a success. Sessions are a success. The other thing, last year I spoke at an HR conference. It was standing room only. They actually had to close the doors. And the feedback that the event organizer received was that they were really disappointed they didn't get into my session. So she begged me to come back. And so I'll be going back to that conference this fall. And I was able to negotiate again because I had leverage that they wanted me there. And she's like, I don't want you to change a thing. She's like, we had so many people that couldn't attend your session. So just do the same exact presentation and come prepared to have a full room. So that was really exciting to me. And, I love feedback. And I love when my friends are in the audience, but I never truly trust I feel like they're just being nice. But when you get that great feedback and people want you to come back, or you hear that you've inspired or motivated somebody, like, that is so fulfilling. And it just makes me want to work a little bit harder. My goals for the future, I would say for probably the next year, I definitely want to apply for TED Talks. So that's on my agenda. I know they take a lot to get into, so I just have to start. And then I do want to build a training program. I've already created the outline of it. I just haven't had the opportunity to sit down and nail out all the details. So those are two of my big goals for the next year.
Well, first of all, Cindy, congratulations on those two speaking engagements that you shared about that. You're in demand, literally. They are demanding you. I love to hear that, because obviously you have a message that resonates with so many people. And if we're being frank, we really need more kindness in the world right now. So I think everybody's realizing that message is very important, not just to us on a personal level, but also on a business level. It is important. And so kudos to you for getting these opportunities, like having that message, delivering it, and really just demonstrating how important it is what you talk about. So I have no doubt that you will knock their socks off. Can you share what the conference is in Orlando, since Carol and I are in Orlando, and anybody locally?
I knew you were going to ask that. I think it's AHRA. It's the association.
It's like HR.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's healthcare, AHRA. I knew you were going to ask. Yeah, now I can't find it on my calendar.
That's okay.
But yeah, I'll be there August 4th through the 6th. So.
Okay, great. Good. Well, hopefully you'll bring lots of water with you, because it's very hot here. So you do not want to burst in flames while you're here. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. Now, also, let's go ahead, if you would, share with our listeners where they can connect with you online, because I know after hearing this, people are going to want to reach out to you and connect. So where can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Cindy Rowe, on LinkedIn. My website is thecindyrowe.com. And I have a podcast as well. It's The Kindness Advantage with Cindy Rowe, where I share tips, 10 minutes or less, because I like quick and easy. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook too. You can find me, Cindy Rowe, on those channels too.
Okay, great. Well, we will share all of that in the show notes. And also, if you are attending a conference related to healthcare in Orlando in August, please go to Cindy's session, because I know you're going to love it. And I know you're going to be blown away. And you will be one of those people demanding that she has another session, or that she's the keynote speaker next time. So, well, thank you, Cindy, so much for coming back on the podcast. I can't tell you how excited I was to chat with you. And I know our listeners are going to love to hear your stories and how you've built momentum. So thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Diane. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you guys have done for my success. I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. So you have been helpful in making my dreams come true. I know I put in the work, but I had a great team behind me, and I appreciate that. And I would love to connect with any of your listeners. So please message me. Let's connect, support each other.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Let's support each other. Well, thank you for the kind words. And we truly appreciate it. It has absolutely been my pleasure to work with you. So thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. If you are getting started on the speaking circuit and you're creating your signature talk, or you want to create your signature talk and you're just not sure how to get all those ideas together, as I mentioned, Cindy did go through the Thought Leader Academy, and you can do the same thing too. It's enrolling now. So if you want to work on those things, create your signature talk, create a visibility plan, and get started on this path towards creating momentum on the speaking circuit, you can visit speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that is speakingyourbrand.com/academy. And as I said, we are enrolling right now. Until next time, thanks for listening.